In this video, we're going to go over the EmpireTech NVR 16-channel AI. This NVR replaces the 4KS2 series and also has the AI functions. We'll go over the AI functions and how to use the NVR. If you are looking for the video on how to set this NVR up, please see our other videos in this series. This NVR can be ordered from EmpireTech-01.com. And again, this is a 16 channel. It does come in 8, 16, and 32. It does hold 2 hard drives. Each can be up to 16 terabyte. This NVR has some smart features that are built into the NVR. For example, the AI by the recorder can have face detection, face recognition, perimeter protection, and smart motion detection plus. The perimeter performance can have 4 channels on the NVR. Can have up to 2 channels of face detection by the recorder. It also can have smart motion detection plus on 8 channels by the recorder or 16 total by the camera. There's going to be a lot to go over in this video. You can pause and resume at a later time or select the chapter that you're looking for. So let's get started. You can see the quick login pattern with the NVRs, and you'll set that up when you set the NVR up. Once we log into the NVR, I like to go to the display setting and get the resolution correct for my screen that I'm using. You can see the 6 different sections and also some settings at the bottom. There's also a second page which will include your display and audio. We'll start right in with the display. On the display, this NVR allows you to have 2 screens, a main screen and a sub-screen, which will be VGA. You have to enable the coding to be able to use the second screen. What I like to do is set the resolution on the main screen. I also like to shut off the time title, because each camera will have the timestamp on it. Whenever you do any settings change, always press apply at the bottom. When you're first setting up the recorder, you're going to want to set your storage schedule, what you want to record. To back out of a menu, you right click. We'll come down to the storage and we can see our menu. Depending on what you're looking to record, if you want a full 24-hour period, that will be in general. If you come all the way to the right to the cog or to the gear, if you only wanted to record for certain periods, you can select that here. I like to have the general, the motion, and the alarm, with also the intelligent features as well. You think you'd be able to select motion and alarm, but when you do and deselect the motion and alarm, I found that it has a few issues that need to be sorted out in a firmware update. I like to do copy all down below and select all days and press OK. Make sure you press apply. Once you do that, you can see that we set it just for the first camera. An easy way is come to the bottom and copy to and select all. And now you can select all cameras without having to do them individually. We press apply to save our changes. If we right click, it brings us back to the video feeds. I want to right click and go to the main menu to start and just go over a few features right on the main screen. You can see at the top we have a live button that will take us back to our video feed. We also have a user selection where you can log in as a different user if you have multiple users set up on the NVR. You also have a little drop down which you can log out, reboot, and shut down. And next to that is the QR code. The QR code you can bring up and you can scan with your phone with the DMSS app and be able to use the push notifications to view the NVR outside your network through P2P. If we go down to the bottom to our camera settings, you can see all the cameras that are on the network. To start with, if you have already initialized your cameras, be populated in the top section. If your cameras are not initialized, you can search the device and the status will have a red X right here with a default of 108. We can select that camera and press initialize. A pop-up will appear and allow you to change the IP address, and it will ask you if you would like to use the same password that you set up for the NVR. When you search again, the new IP address should be shown up. One thing to note that these cameras and NVR default to an IP address of 192.168.1.108. What you'll want to do is change the IP address of your camera, especially if you're going to be adding multiple cameras to your NVR. You also can see a plug and play feature, which if you turn this on and plug your cameras in, the DHCP will assign your cameras their own IP address on your network. Once you have initialized your camera, you can select your camera and then select Add. When you add the camera, it'll come down to the bottom section and a green status light will indicate that you have a live feed. If it shows up red, then there is an issue. It could be either with camera's IP address or the password. You can click on the edit pencil, check your IP address, check your password, and press connect. When you press OK, the light should turn green and indicate a live feed. You can also see that we can add a manual IP address, we can modify an IP address, and we can change the camera login password. On this screen at the top, you also can see the device status. It'll show you what's connected and the status of each camera. You can see the red indicator means that for some reason this camera is not on. In this circumstance, the camera is disconnected. You also can see the firmware, the name of the camera. There's an update button. On the newer cameras, if you press check, it will search out to see if there's an update for that camera. You can see at the bottom we have a file update, a manual check, and an online update. We'll go back to our camera list and take a look at our left side menu. On the image, this is where you can adjust the image for each camera. You can see that there's a drop-down menu for each camera. We'll select a different camera, and you can see that the different settings that you can change. This camera, you can see I have illuminator settings, which I can adjust on the fly from the NVR menu. Whatever changes you make, be sure to press apply so they take effect. Below that, you can see the overlay. This will be the overlay that is displayed on the camera. You can adjust these by clicking on and dragging where you'd like the overlay to be. You can select or deselect the time channel and the channel title. This is where you could name the channel if you'd like. You'll press apply to save the changes. You'll see there's another tab next to the overlay, which is privacy masking. It's going to be just what it sounds like. You can make an area that would be blocked out. You can see the privacy mask. If you didn't want to record a section, you can set the privacy, and that area will always be blacked out. We'll go to our encode section. Our encode section is going to be where you set the bit rate for the camera. You can see you have a mainstream and you also have a substream. Camera name, and type in whatever you'd like to for each camera. We'll back out one section by right clicking and we'll go into our network. If you notice all these settings at the bottom, when we go into the settings, they'll also be at the top. When we come to our network, we covered this in the other video when setting up your NVR. We'll take a quick look. You could modify your NIC card, which will be the IP address of the NVR. Another important feature is the P2P section. You'd have to enable this if you want to connect to your NVR through the DMSS app. This should have asked you when you first initialize the NVR. Go back to our storage setting. We already set our storage schedule up. The disk manager will show you how many hard drives and terabytes and also the health status. The record mode, you can see I have the mainstream all in auto. The substream I have off. I only need to record on a mainstream. I'll turn my snapshots on and press apply. You also can do a disk check if you're having trouble with the hard drive. It can scan the clusters. We'll go up to the system. This is where you can adjust your layout of your time if you prefer the year, month, and day, and also their time zone. You can change the time during the time change or set up your daylight savings time. You also can turn on the National Time Protocol. Under our security tab, you can see your security status. You could set up multiple users with their own passwords and allow different access for different users. We'll right click and back out to the main menu. You can see our camera feeds are up. In this view we have 9 channels. If I wanted to see a single channel, I could just double click on the channel and it would bring it up in full screen. I right click again to bring up the menu. You can see the main menu brings us back to where we were. Right click brings us back to the view. Right click again and we can scroll down through the different views. For example, view 1 shows all the different views in a single panel mode. View 4 lets you see 4 views or 4 different video feeds at the same time. Channels 1 to 4, 5 to 8, and so on. If we wanted an 8 view, the channel 1 to 8 gives us one big screen followed by 7 smaller screens. To be able to put a different video feed into the bigger view, you just double click on the single pane. Right click. Again, we can see our 9 channel view. Or we can do the 16. We'll go back to a single panel view and show you some of the features on the screen. If you hover up to the top, you can see a menu that pops up. This is a quick access menu for an instant playback, a digital zoom, instant record, snapshot, microphone, mainstream or substream. And with this new NVR, we have Acupic, and we'll cover that in the AI functions. To start out with, instant playback, if we click on that, it's going to show us a predetermined amount of time that we'll select in our settings on playback. Default is 5 minutes. You can see as the playback is going, you can fast forward it by clicking on the timeline at the bottom. Just keep in mind when this gets done playing, it stays in its playback view and stops. So you actually have to close out the instant playback. Hover back to the top. Our next little icon is going to be a digital zoom. We can click it, draw a square, and that will be our digital zoom. We can then click and hold and move around our digital zoom. Right click to exit. Instant record we don't need because we're doing general recording. And again, if the camera had a microphone, two-way talk. If I wanted to switch for substream for some reason, I could click on that and select the different streams. We also have our Acupic, which we'll go over more of this. If your camera is a PTZ, which is pan, tilt, and zoom, you can right-click on the menu, scroll down to the PTZ control, and select that by left-clicking. when the menu pops up, you can click and drag it out of your way or move it to where you'd like. You can see you have a speed control. You have up, down, left, and right. You also have a square in the middle, which is 3D positioning. You can select that 3D positioning, and now you can use your mouse control. I'll drag a square, and the camera will zoom in. If I reverse the square, the camera will zoom out. I can click on the screen, and it will move the camera. I can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. I can right click and bring up the menu again. You also have the zoom control, focus, iris, and the mouse gesture control. You also can see an arrow to the right that will bring up a sub-menu. And this is where we can select different things. For example, our preset. We can select our number in our preset. Click on the icon for the preset, and it takes us to our preset that we have set up in the camera. You also can do the tour, the pattern, the scan, pan, flip, and reset. You can see our auxiliary config. We can click on that, and this is where we can adjust our settings. For example, if I wanted to make this a preset 5, I would select my preset number and press settings. And you can see preset 5 is now where I set it. You can do that for tours, patterns, and scans. And you also can delete the preset if you'd like. We'll right click to get out of the menu. We also see our little auxiliary light icon. Our auxiliary will be able to turn the light on and off, and also the wiper if your camera has one. We can right click back to our main menu. Our AI display, we can turn our rules off or on. You can see now we can look at our AI rules. Or if you don't like them on the display, again, we can come down to the AI display and shut them off. Our live layout. In the menu settings, we can set our different layouts if we'd like. Another nice feature is the live mode. You can see here it is in general, but I can also put on the AI mode, and it puts a little sub panel on the right hand side. Now any of the AI that is triggered will show up in the right hand side. You can see our AI side panel is now populated. This is a handy quick look feature without having to go back in and view your cameras. You can look at the side panel and scroll down and see what AIs have been triggered. You can double click and it will show you a single screen with a playback mode. Again, if I pause this and select our Acupic, it highlights different items that Acupic can use, either a vehicle or a person. I'll select the Acupic, and I'll search. And you can see the different AcuPics, what it found based on 80% similarity of the target. I could double click. I'll right click to get out of the menu and go back to the 9-channel view. Take note of the camera numbering system. You can see here's a D1, D2, D3, and this is the position that your cameras are in. If I wanted to line these up differently, I could right click and going down to sequence. If I wanted to move the camera position, all I have to do is drag a hold of the camera and move it to a new square. And you can see I can move these around wherever I'd like. And then I can press apply. Your autofocus is going to be for cameras that have a varifocal lens. You're able to adjust the zoom. You could select the image for whichever channel you are selected, and you can see that they'll have a green box around them when it's selected. If you had your alternate display or your subscreen on, you could select that, and it would take your mouse to the subscreen, and you could control that screen with your mouse. And to get back, you would right click and click main screen. One thing to note is when you're in multi-channel view, you still have the menus for each screen. You just can hover to the top of each screen. You can see at the top right we have the little bell, the arming bell. If you click that, you can arm or disarm the NVR. And what that will do is it'll allow you to shut off your alarms if you have any on the cameras. We'll right click and go back into the main menu and continue on with our different modules. We have covered the settings, and we'll start in by going to the search module. You can also access a search module from the live view by right clicking and selecting search. You can see it brings us to our timeline. If we're in our main menu, we can select search and it brings us to our timeline. You can see by default it selects the first 4 cameras in your camera list, and you can see that it goes from midnight to 2400 hours. A couple things that I'd like to note is when you're in the timeline view, it's much easier just to have one camera selected because by default it selects 4. So I deselect the cameras and then select one camera that I want to view. Again, when we go to search, it defaults to the first 4. The quick way is just to click the camera name and then deselect it and it removes it. I'll select the first camera and we'll take a look at the timeline. To get the video preview, we select the timeline. And now we have the timeline view. You can see the hours are pretty close together. But what you can do is you can either come down to the right and select the 2-hour, 1-hour, or 30-minute increments. Our 2 hours will stretch our timeline for a 2-hour period. Again, it'll do a 1 hour and a 30-minute. It's easier to track down something this way instead of on the 24-hour timeline. Take note of the orange scrubber button. We can grab our orange scrubber button and drag it, fast forwarding the timeline. You also have play, rewind, a stop and pause button. You also can left click on the timeline and drag the timeline left and right. It's easier to see if we're at the end. So I can click and drag the timeline left or right. When you see a blank area in the timeline, it's either when the camera or the NVR has restarted or lost connection. Timeline is color coded accordingly. General is going to be the green. I have motion set on this camera, so it's going to be yellow. And intelligent features are blue. You can see if we had a set of speakers plugged into the NVR, we could adjust the volume. We can do a smart search with the little guy. You can see if we select the human, it'll filter out the IVS. You can use your mouse wheel to zoom in. We can also select our target for just vehicles. One nice feature is the file list. If you click on the file list, it'll populate the right-hand column and show you the different items that were activated by the intelligent features. You can see the R is regular recording. The M is going to be your motion detection. And then the I is going to be the tripwires. It's a handy way to check all of your intelligent functions or your motion detection without having to search the entire timeline. If you wanted to save a snippet of the timeline, you would insert a thumb drive into the NVR, select the area that you wanted to save. We'd click our scissors and you'll see the time populates. We'll move our play file to the next area and press the scissors again. Or we can adjust our time with the virtual keyboard and press save. It'll ask you to confirm. We can select the file format. I select the MP4 as it will play on anything. And if you have multiple videos, you can combine them all in one file if you'd like. And press backup to save to the thumb drive. One thing you'll want to notice is when you are selecting your cameras, if you accidentally press the camera name at the top, it lines your cameras up in reverse from channel 16 to 1. On the calendar, all the dots represent the days that have active recording. We can change the month, and depending on how big of a hard drive you have in your NVR, and your bandwidth and how many cameras will determine how long you can record for. When the hard drive gets full, it'll start overwriting the last recording day in the history. If I wanted to go back, I could select any day, I could select any camera, and it will populate the timeline. I can select the file list to find out activity that took place during that day. If I single click in the file list, it shows me a snapshot. If I double click in the file list, it will start to play the video on the timeline. And you can see it was at 2 a.m. and my scrubber is at 2 a.m. I can right click to get out. The other icon is the EZPTZ function. If your camera has the EZPTZ function, as in the T180 camera, and you have it set up, you can do the playback with this function. We'll now move on to the AI section. This module will allow you to search and set up the different AI functions like face detection, face recognition, IVS, stereo analysis, license plate recognition, and also smart motion detection. When we come into this module, you can see that it defaults to the AI search. Keep that in mind when you come here and you want to do adjustments or search, because usually it'll default into the AI search, and if you're trying to adjust your tripwires, that's going to be down in the parameters. We'll go through a few of these and cover some of the items. We'll start in the AI search. The AI search drop down, you can see if you have AcuPic, you could search by uploading an AcuPic file and let it search based on similarities. You can see under face detection, I can select the camera, which I'll select all. I'll just search for today and press search. You can see the AI function show up and show my face detection that it gathered from the cameras. We'll back out by right clicking. We also can search by IVS. We can select all cameras. We'll press today and press search. We'll show all the IVS that was activated today. We'll select for the last 7 days and search. And now you can see we have 12 pages. I can click on it and play a small window for the last 20 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever you select. You can press play. If you double click, it'll make it full screen, and you can see that's when I trip the tripwires. You can also do your AI search for your other parameters. If you have them set up, we can do motor vehicles. You could put a plate number in, and it would try to find the plate number or the details of the vehicle. I'll just leave everything on all. I'll go to the last 3 days and press search. And you can see it popped up my vehicle. The other AI features, we can do smart motion detection. We'll select all cameras. We'll select the last few days and we'll search. And you can see the smart motion detection separates them from human and motor vehicles. Tells you the timestamp, and you also can play the video clip. Under parameters is where your settings are going to be, where you'll set stuff up. Every camera has to have a smart plan before you can begin. So you can select your camera under the smart plan. Depending on what features your camera has is what you can select. We have face recognition for this one, IVS, and the metadata. This NVR is AI, so it does have a few features on the NVR. You can see by camera and by recorder. You have to select the Acupic or AI mode, and the camera and the device must be the same. I've been sampling the Acupic features, so that's why I don't have it in the AI mode. You'll select the AI mode and press OK, and then press apply. The NVR will restart, and then we'll be in the AI mode. Once the camera restarts, we'll go back into the AI and go under parameters. Now you can see under our smart plan, if we select the recorder tab, we are in the AI mode. All of these cameras support their own AI functions, so I can set them in the camera and not in the recorder. To do that, I'll go to the smart plan. I'll select the camera. For this sample, I'll bring up camera number 2. And I'm going to set the face detection. I'll set the face detection and I'll press apply. I can now go down into the face detection section. I can select my camera that I just put the smart plan on and enable it. You can see now that I've changed it, it allows me to do the AI by the recorder or by the camera. In this case, I'm going to do it by the camera because the camera itself has the smart function, so there's no need to set it by the recorder. It'll ask me to draw a region. I'll like the whole region to be selected, and I'll press OK. I'll enable it. I'll just check Face Enhance. I'll check the schedule to make sure it's all the days and all the time period. I can adjust this by a time frame if I would like. You can see there's selections that you can choose. And in this case, I'll just make sure the record channel is set, which is channel 2. The buzzer will sound an audible on the NVR once the AI function is activated, and I'll leave that off. If you had camera audio or a speaker on the camera, it could do an audible to the camera when it was activated. And I'll press apply. You can see with our AI function, face detection activated and our smart plan enabled, face detection on the camera. We could add this face to the database. Under our parameters, what we can do is we can set up a face detection by the recorder. For example, if I wanted to do my doorbell and I wanted to do face detection, the doorbell doesn't have this feature, but the recorder, being AI, does. I know that this doorbell is on channel D8, so I'll go back into my AI, under main menu, AI. We don't need to set up a smart plan because we're not setting up the camera, we're going to set up the recorder. So I can go right to face detection. I can go to channel 8, D8. I can enable it, set my rule. You select your schedule. We'll press OK. We want to record the channel. I'll press apply to activate. I'll bring the camera up and go out and activate it and see if it records. You should see it populate on the AI box in the right column. As you can see, it captured face detection by the recorder, as the doorbell has no AI features. We can double click and we can do a playback. This is very handy if any of your cameras do not have the AI features. I could add this to the face database for friendly info. You can see we'll select IVS, and then we can add to the camera. For this sample, we'll do channel 1 or camera 1. I'll add. You can select what's available, tripwire, intrusion, missing object. For this, I'll do tripwire. I'll come to the pencil to draw the rule. And then I could draw my tripwires in the area that I wanted to. I found that zigzag patterns work the best. You can grab a hold of this box and move it out of your way and continue to draw. You can right click to release the line. You can select the direction if you wanted it one way. You also can select the target filter if you wanted it just human and motor vehicles. One thing I've noticed, without the target filter on, it will not populate the sidebar under AI. I'll press OK, and I could press apply to add that tripwire. If I wanted to go back to one of my previous tripwires and adjust the line, I could click the pencil, then I could move the IVS tripwire that I wanted. I can drag a hold of the whole thing and move it, or just one of the corner spots and adjust it as needed. I'll right click to back out. You can see a gear for the trigger. We'll select the gear. You could put your tripwires or IVS settings on a schedule. You go to the right and click the cog, and you can set your time and for what days. Right click to back out. I'll make sure that the record channel is set. The PTZ linkage, this is where you'd set a trigger camera to make a PTZ camera follow a specific camera. If I wanted my PTZ to lock in on an object after it has passed by this IVS, I would go to my PTZ camera and set a preset. I would take my preset. I think that number 2 is the preset in this area for this camera. Now that I know my preset is set for this location, I can go back to my AI under parameters, go to my channel 2. I'll take my IVS rule. I will confirm that this is the one that I want to do. I'll go to the trigger and I will tell the PTZ linkage that I want camera number 1 to go to preset number 2 when that IVS rule is tripped. I'll press OK and I'll press apply. Now, when I walk out on camera number 2 and set off the tripwires along the sidewalk, it will call this PTZ camera, no matter what position it is in, to come to this preset. I could set IVS rules for preset 2 on my PTZ, and then it would auto track at that location. We'll go back to our parameters under our AI, and you can see the other features that you can set up as well. If your camera has people counting, metadata, etc., it all can be set up under the parameters for each camera. It also has SMD, which is the Smart Motion Detection feature. Keep in mind that the Smart Motion Detection works with the motion detection. The Smart Motion Detection is the filter between human and vehicles on the motion detection, and we'll cover that next. Motion detection is going to be found under the alarm page. Again, the icons at the top are the same as the modules. Our motion detection is found on the alarm page. When we click the alarm page, you can see that there's several different alarms. You can see the tripwires that were set off, and also an alarm came in for the camera when it went offline and rebooted. The alarm in ports and out ports are for the connections on the back of the NVR. The detailed instructions are in the other video of the NVR setup. The motion detection is called video detection underneath the alarm module. Be aware that you cannot have smart motion detection and an IVS rule set up at the same time, as these are both AI functions and only one is able to be active at any one time. However, you are allowed to have regular video detection and an IVS or an AI feature active on any given camera at the same time. Under video detection, you can see I select the camera under D1. I can click on the settings and show the areas in red that I want the video detection to take place. I can highlight the red and drag, or click individual cells to deselect. Everything in red is going to be the detection area. So I could select my area that I want video detection to take place and press apply. And I can do a schedule if I'd like. The anti-dither is going to be the time delay that something enters the area before it sends me an alert. The alarm out port could be the relays in the back to set off a siren, strobe light, or whatever you have hooked up. I could tie this in with the PTZ linkage and have a PTZ camera come around and view that area. Your tour is going to allow your PTZ camera to go to select presets that you have set up in a tour. The buzzer will sound an alarm on the NVR itself by a beep. Once you have your video detection set up, then you can go through and set up the smart motion detection so the video detection or motion detection is not constantly going off. The smart motion detection will filter that out. We'll back out, go to our smart motion detection under the AI module. When I turn on smart motion detection, you can see that this configuration is not supported. I'll select one of my other cameras and see if it is available on that. And on camera 2, it allows smart motion detection, so I can enable it. And you can see I can adjust the sensitivity and then select active target. I can put it on a schedule. I can tie it into the relays in the back of the NVR if I had an alarm hooked up to the relay. I could show a message, which it would pop up on my NVR screen. Also, if you had a PV camera that had audio and remote lights, it could also strobe them on and off. You can see under the parameters with the AI, there's a bunch of other stuff that you can select for license plate recognition, smart sound detection if your camera has a microphone. Smart motion detection is under AI, but that's only after you set it up on the alarm page. Under your alarm page, you can see the disarming. We select arm, and you can see what you can select and deselect. Remember, you can arm and disarm from the live video page at the top right with the red bell. Also under exception, if your hard disk is going bad, it will beep non-stop. You can disable this under the alarm module under the exception. You also have several other alarms that you can select with a disk error for your hard drive, low disk space, etc. Back under our AI module, we can scroll down to database. Our database is going to be for the face recognition and license plate recognition. You can set up several databases for each one. You can see there's a lot of features on this NVR, and I only just covered the basics of how to set them up. And it's very easy to use. You can adjust almost all settings for the cameras through the NVR without having to log into the cameras directly. You can purchase these NVRs by going to EmpireTech-01.com. Thanks for watching.